Bottled soda or fountain drink?
Bottles, 100%.
100% bottles, huh?
And I'll tell you why. The fountain drink, right out of the fountain, pretty great.
Take a shot.
Take a shot. Right out of the fountain, pretty great. But if you're not the type of person that just inhales your beverage, if it sits in your cup for any amount of time, it loses carbonation, it gets watered down because of the ice, and then it quickly devolves into an inferior product. The bottle, as a sipper, usually I'm a sipper.
Put the
I
cap
carry
back
around
on.
all day. Yeah, put the cap back on. It stays a fair amount more carbonated. I say all that, and today I've got water in my bottle because I had sriracha on my sandwich and spicy jalapeno chips, and I was an inhaler.
Yeah.
So the fountain might have been the better choice.
And here I am drinking bottled soda out of a cup with ice. So it's like I'm getting the worst of both.
This makes me the better eco-conscious liberal and you the more wasteful conservative, because I am reusing a bottle and you're using 2 vessels for one drink.
And a straw.
You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey. Very exciting news just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
We're not breaking that news because we're a little bit behind from when we record to when we launch, but it'll still be very topical, I think. The brand new Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out, and I am all about it.
You didn't even look at the specs and you pre-ordered, right?
So pre-order is not available yet. You can actually sign up for notification to pre-orders. So now this is like having a meeting about a meeting before you have the meeting.
This is Spaceballs preparing to go. Well, we're always preparing. Just go.
So yes, it was announced, and I think it was announced because there was a ton of leaks. The leaking community has gotten really good at like searching for patent filings, and European Union has different regs and stuff that will expose stuff before launch. But there were full 3D renders and just lots of information that was coming out. And to get out ahead of it, I think Nintendo announced early.
Yeah. Okay.
But they had a very, very entertaining 3D render where they basically took the existing Nintendo Switch and then they bumped up the size and they changed the aesthetic and they gave it some fresh paint, and it was all, liquid sort of metal effects. Very, very interesting to look at. And I am one of these plebeian console gamers. Yeah. I have a PC I can game on, but at the end of the day, I like to just sit on my comfy couch. I don't want to be in, work desk posture. I don't want to fuss with headphones.
Yeah. I think we talked about it when Joe was on, where I had a major shift in gaming. We used to game, Chris and I, both in the same room, each on our own computer desk, PC game, all the time. Great. But then COVID, I was working to get people out of my office because, at some points during the pandemic, there were 2 dogs, 2 kids, and my wife and I all in the same room. Yeah. And it's like the smallest room of the house.
And everybody had to meet on a conference call where they were pushing dogs out of the way. And
so we got an Xbox, and that changed us from PC gamers. Of course, the kids got into the Xbox then too, but we launched into the console world. So that's what I'd like to unpack. But I'd like to underscore one thing you said that shocks me a little bit, and I think is kind of part of what I want to talk about. You said they're making the Switch bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. So that seems to be something I've observed in mobile technology, laptops, phones. Of course, the phones, they're trying to get bigger for bigger screen size, but they're trying to get lighter and thinner and all that. And it seems like technology is always trying to make things smaller for good reason. But when I'm talking about a gaming machine, whether it's a computer or a console, I want big. I want airflow. I want, liquid cooling. I want features. And that's something, when you fire up a good gaming PC and you load a high end game, it sounds like an aircraft taking off. The computer's winding up. But that's a good thing. That's not a.
That means that you're basically you're hitting the accelerator and you're listening to that V8 hum, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's probably a little bit of an overlap between car guys and custom PC guys because you have somebody that spends far too much on their hobby, probably underutilizes the thing that they've spent a lot of time planning and building.
Yep.
They just want to show it off. They like shiny, pretty things.
That's the PC case industry has changed from like a plain beige, completely opaque to, now it's got windows and LEDs. And I literally changed where I put my PC case at home because the cool graphics and view was pointed toward the wall. And I was like, I got to
flip this. Well, you say LEDs, now LCDs too. Have you seen they've got water coolers where on the cooling block itself, it's got a screen.
Yeah.
And so you can put little custom messages
It'll
or
tell you
images.
Temperature, show temperature.
It's made for a readout, but they understand that somebody's going to want to have Mario on there and do their Mario themed case or
get a little Mario walk
or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I've occupied both spaces, right? So I actually, as far as gaming is concerned, I'm an original console gamer. We talked about gaming with Joe, and so there's going to be a little bit of overlap, I think, today. But we're going to depart from that too. So Nintendo Entertainment System. That came out in '84. I think we got ours when I was maybe 6 years old, and that would have been about 1989. So a few years into the product cycle, but that's how I knew gaming. First, didn't have a PC until I was in high school.
Well, and that tracks. And we did talk about some of the early PC games, the Wolfenstein and Doom and all that. But we didn't really have the battle yet, I don't think. At that point.
And I think it's worth leading up to. And I got really into the PC gaming. I bought into Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. A mutual friend of ours gave me his old Atari. I don't know if you remember that. He brought it to Summit.
Oh, really?
Chad.
Oh, he did.
I had just a huge, huge, huge collection. And for a long time, I enjoyed it. I played them, had kids, got a professional job, got really busy. And all that stuff ended up in plastic milk crates in my basement. My unfinished basement that I'm working on where sawdust goes everywhere. And I had a defining moment where I decided to part ways with these things because there was a one particular title, and when it was new, it wasn't that popular. And you may know it. I think it's pretty well known because the character from this title is also one of the best characters in Super Smash Brothers.
Okay.
But Earthbound, are you familiar with this?
I don't know.
So Earthbound was a very, very quirky, high personality, what they call JRPG, Japanese role-playing game. And it used turn-based combat systems, and it told a story. And it was a weird story about aliens that invaded and kids with psychic powers, and it was odd. It was a weird game. It came with a manual that had scratch and sniff stickers, and you could scratch it, and one of them smelled like barf, and it was out there. It was weird. And when I bought that game, I bought it on clearance for about $6 at Best Buy. And if you wanted to buy that game today, just the cartridge without all the accoutrement, you'd be looking at about $500.
Wow.
And if you have the box and the manual and the scratch and sniff stickers, you're fetching over $1,000 for this game, or somewhere in that ballpark.
I can see it.
But I went to plug this game in and show my kids, and my console displayed a bunch of funky error graphics. Something was, and I thought the game was broken. And that really, I got upset about that. Then I plugged another game in, and I realized it was the console that was broken. And a Super Nintendo console you can replace for about $70. So if you have to lose the $70 thing or the several $100 thing, I got lucky, but I also realized entropy's kicking in. I'm not going to be able to keep up with the stuff, and I sold the whole lot. Got rid of everything, and
bought a Switch.
Didn't buy a Switch originally.
Oh, that's grad school.
That was also happening around the time where I was in grad school, because while you were buying the Xbox and kind of doing the gaming thing with the family during the pandemic, I actually, that's when I was attending grad school. And decided no video games until I graduate, and then I'm going to reward myself by getting a console again after I graduate. So I bought the Switch, and I've loved it. I love playing it with my kids. My kids love it maybe a little bit too much. But if I have the option of sitting down and playing a game, I'm at that phase of life right now where I want to sit down and I want to play with my kids. I want them on the couch next to me. They want to tell me all the things I already know, but feel really smart. And so I'll let them, talk to me about stuff that I probably told them the week before.
Yep.
And that's kind of the season of gaming that I'm in right now.
Yeah. We're in a interesting season of gaming because, again, we've got the Xbox, and of course we've tried to find some 4-player games where the whole family can play, and we've done some of that. But Vinny really likes to get on the PC, which is in the back corner in the same room, and he gets on the headset and he does the Fortnite and does all that, and all his buddies. And he originally learned first-person shooter with mouse and keyboard, and then he switched to the Xbox, and he was pretty adept at the controller. In fact, so much so that we would hand the controller to him sometimes when we were trying to beat a boss in like Elden Ring, and he'd be like, "I got this." What are the buttons again? What's controls?
You hate that because he doesn't even know it, but he's going to outperform you.
He's going to do it. And then he did that for a while with Fortnite with the controllers, and that's when I took the PC that was upstairs, and I was like, "This thing's never running. Let's boot it up. Let's update Windows," and I put it in the corner, and now he's all in with. He's playing against Xbox players, console players, and he's
probably just destroying them.
There's such an advantage.
Yeah. Now, I will say, in spite of what I've just said about consoles, one of my favorite things to do, my brother will occasionally text me and say, "Hey, do you want to get on and play some Fortnite?"
Yeah.
And I hadn't played Fortnite when it was cool.
In a fortnight?
In a fortnight. It's 7 years ago. No, I just never got into it, I think because it was popular and cool, and so I assumed it must be like dumb. And it is, but I like it. So the value for me in the console world is spending time in person with my family. Right. But the value for me in the PC gaming world is spending time with my distant family.
Yes.
My brother's 2 hours north from here, and I can park on a phone call with him, casually play some Fortnite, occasionally do pretty well because he and I are both seasoned old gamers.
Yep.
And it is a lot of fun to have that connection with other people. And I think this is how men bond, right? I don't think men typically bond the same way women bond. Women will bond by eye contact and lots of conversation, and they tend to be social creatures in the sense that they're valuing that human interaction. And I think guys tend to bond more over shared activity. This is why sports is so popular, because you've got that tribal bond where you're not looking at another guy and you're not getting intimate in conversation, but you are spending quality time together, and you guys have a common goal.
Yeah.
Even if it's
beat this other team.
Yeah, beat the other team, and maybe you're not even contributing to that goal, but it's sort of a shared thing. And I think gaming satisfies that need.
Yeah. No, I'm just I was confused
What's this
by
button do?
No, I was confused by why they look lit up, but
yeah.
clearly they're not. And I saw the little reds.
Let's push other buttons.
Yeah, let's just. So let me finish going around the room here. The Xbox and hooked up to TV, the gaming PC in the corner, and then in the other corner, a Raspberry Pi.
Yes.
With all of these very legally obtained ROMs to play the games that I used to own.
Still own.
Just to back up.
This is going on the internet. You still own them.
Still own them, and they're in a box somewhere in a basement. Yeah. Anyway, you can get a pretty inexpensive Raspberry Pi running RetroArch and different front ends to basically play ROMs and play Sega. You played Super Nintendo. I was a NES, Super Nintendo guy. A little bit of N64, but not much outside of that. So I have a handful of favorites that I've been playing with the kids. The Mario World. I really enjoyed those. Link to the Past. And I mean, these games surprisingly hold up.
A lot of them do.
And
I think the measure of that is if somebody who's experienced modern gaming can jump in and enjoy them.
Yeah.
Because some of them don't hold up.
Some of them
especially from the NES era where the box art was the only good part of the game.
Like real cartoony graphics, and then you play the game.
And then you get in and it's like a stick figure. Here's a question for you. Raspberry Pi. is this a PC game or is this a console game?
Yeah, no, that is it's interesting. It is a PC in the sense that it's, well, shoot, I guess all the modern consoles have an OS. So the line's getting pretty blurry.
Xbox runs Windows, doesn't it?
In some form, version. Yeah. I would dare say that what we're doing on the Raspberry Pi, after we boot into the game, we are emulating the console. So for me, it's a console because it's emulating the old system.
I guess you're not using the keyboard and the mouse.
You're not, except for the fact that you do have a hotkey on there that wasn't native to the game that you can use to pull up RetroArch's menu, and you can save state at any point. You can load, you can add cheats.
And I think those are quality of life improvements. I think by now, if you've not beaten Contra, you might need a little help.
Yeah. Oh, and I dare say if you beat Contra without the cheat code,
you didn't.
You're lying.
Yeah, or you were one of those like Mensa kids or something.
Yeah. But let me move one more place in the room. This is the latest edition. I had an old Gigabyte Bricks PC. It's like a
micro PC.
Yeah, it's a micro PC. And this will tie into what we're talking about because you sacrifice. If you've got the gaming PC, it's a tower and fans and all that. But then we have the Bricks, which is a compact PC. It's the kind of thing you could put on the back of a TV. And
probably get like a VESA mount.
Yeah, something like that. But this one was particularly useful in the basement because I would hook it up to the projector. And this was before, Roku and all the Apple TV they're so advanced now. I very rarely need to plug a PC into the projector because
everything's there, at least in terms of YouTube and the apps that you would want to use to display something on your wall.
Yeah. So
but your basement it's pretty well set up for entertainment.
I think so.
You bought it, and the previous owner had already kind of set it up for entertainment. Yeah,
we bought it. When we bought it, they finished the basement in this real kind of like dark atmosphere, which was really cool. It was a huge CRT. I think a 65-inch CRT in the back in that corner. That was just built for that TV. Really, it seems like.
Did your brother get mad that you got rid of a CRT?
He did, but it was heavy. It had to go. So I've since put a projector in there, and it's kind of the perfect room for a projector. Yeah, and then the rest of the basement's all the music equipment. So it's my playhouse. Sure.
Yeah, you lucked out. You got a whole floor of the house as a man cave.
Yeah. The downside to that is anytime something's in the way upstairs, just put it in the basement.
Yep.
And so we have. Anyway, I'll get to my last thing. The Bricks runs Dolphin, which is a Wii emulator.
Okay.
And it's one of the most perfect emulators I've been told. And so again, if you have legally obtained Wii ROMs, you can load them into this game, into this system. They work with the Wiimote. And I've been toying with that with the kids, and I played a little volleyball with Vincent the other day, and it's kind of neat how it's nothing like volleyball.
Let's go down a rabbit trail for a moment.
All right.
We've kind of joked with the whole legally obtained ROMs thing. I think everybody knows that most people who have ROMs have them in a morally gray fashion.
Yeah.
But should it be morally gray if the manufacturer or owner of the IP has made no effort to make that available?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking specifically of a title that I absolutely loved, also on Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger.
I was gonna guess.
You know it,
yeah,
because you've heard me talk about it.
I've tried to play it.
I have purchased it on multiple formats. I think the only format I've never owned it on was DS. But I've owned a disc-based copy. I have owned the actual Super Nintendo copy, the original copy that came out in the U.S. I even have a version on my PC, and I've got it on my phone too.
Wow!
So at various points, I've had that thought, it'd be nice to go back and do a playthrough again. And so every time they've made it available, I've given them my money. I've bought the same product multiple times legally. Yeah. So the issue that I have now is that it's not available in a console anymore. It's not available. I couldn't go and and get a version for my Nintendo Switch or anything like that, but I can for my Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And so that one has probably been made more available than other less popular titles, but there are games that are phenomenal that have never been re-released. They've not been made available on Nintendo's electronic distribution through the Switch Online.
I've heard the same argument about streaming TV, movies or TV. Most notably lately, a friend of mine was posting this plea to get Herman's Head on one of the streamers.
Never heard of it.
Herman's Head was you'd see Inside Out?
Yes.
Okay. It was Inside Out before Inside Out. Basically, there was a guy, Herman, and you basically got to see his 4 emotions act out whatever he's going through. Okay. And it was the person that does Lisa on The Simpsons, the voice actor. She was one of them. Most of the others, I think, were.
So this is a product of the 90s then, probably?
Yeah, 90s, maybe early 90s. One was greed or envy anyway, you had the different emotions, and it was really cool because you got to see them talking out these. But anyway, apparently it's not out there. So there's an incentive for people with the means to, get the DVD and rip it and convert it to an MPEG, and then you get things like Plex, which Plex would be kind of the emulator of
your home streaming, local non-networked option.
I had a handful of movies that just weren't available that I could play, and I have on my Plex server. That again is really largely gone away because everything's out there. But there's a movie, Brain Donors, that I have the hardest time finding that I have a ripped version of, and then also the Harmy Star Wars.
The what?
So since this is a nerdy episode, the original trilogy.
They're all nerdy episodes.
Episode 4, 5, and 6. If you have the original VHS or the Laserdisc version pre-97, you have the original version, how it was, done in the theatrical release, right? Yeah.
Before all the extra CG was added.
Yeah, and I think that was 1997, and that's really when I got back into Star Wars in the late 90s. Because I hadn't been I didn't own it on VHS or any of that. But yeah, so basically my whole revisiting Star Wars was 1999-ish, introducing it to Kristen, and of course it's all the
updated version.
Special, yeah. So you've got the whole.
So you're the Han shot first purist then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Of course.
Yeah. And the whole Jabba. So it's supposed to be the Max Rebo band has a very, very chill song, and when you're introduced to the Jabba's palace, but now it's like this woodoo woodoo and you got the CG and all that, which is that's all my kids have seen, but I actually have ripped versions that someone has pieced together different digital formats of the movies pre special edition. So there's some scenes in it that I watch. I'm like, I haven't seen this probably since the late 70s.
Yep.
But so despecialized, I guess is what they're called.
Nice.
So again, there's another reason to.
Well, and that touches on something that I think is very, very popular right now, and that's this notion of one, do you own it? Mm-hmm. And 2, will you be able to continue to consume it even after you purchase it?
Yeah.
I think we've touched on things like Redbox in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But if you bought a movie, Redbox, mostly it was for rentals, but they had movies you could buy, and then it was in your digital Redbox locker or whatever they called it. And as soon as they went dark, you lost it all.
Yeah.
It was never yours. Mm-hmm. You just had a perpetual rental with Redbox as long as they were an entity.
Yeah.
And you think about cancel culture, and some of my favorite movies, I think probably would be at risk. I think of Tropic Thunder as an example.
Yeah.
Tropic Thunder, if seen through the wrong lens, is very insensitive to a lot of different groups of people. Mm-hmm. And the point is it's a commentary on some issues that they're kind of toying with. But comedy is kind of the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
And if people aren't allowed to say things because, well, that's a culturally insensitive thing, and you're going to hurt a disenfranchised people group. Well, now it's gone. Now it's gone from culture, and if you don't own it, if you don't have a physical copy, or if you don't have a digital copy that's available to you, people can make it disappear. And then the other thing you said, a lot of it is out there already. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think a lot of it is out there if you're willing to pay for every different subscription that happens to be available to you. But when digital distribution first came out, it was like Netflix is amazing. It's one library, one subscription cost, and you can have everything. Spotify still is for music. I'm glad music didn't fragment the way that movies have. But now I could be watching a show, and if I'm looking for a specific season, seasons 1 through 7 aren't on this platform. You have to go get Hulu. But we have seasons 7 and 8 here on Netflix because of these weird contractual things that happen. I don't love it. And I think the more fragmentation we get in the market, the more competition they create, the more they're going to start to price consumers out. And then you're going to see a return to piracy.
Yeah, well, and I think that's kind of the spirit of it. I think people are going to take things they cherish, like Tropic Thunder or Brain Donors in my case, and just find a way to kind of have a copy. I think it's probably foolish to say to go completely off the grid and have an offline version of everything, because I mean, storage, you don't need it, and I think I would encourage people to, even there are legal ways to buy versions of these in some context to do, or rip your own.
Best Buy just got rid of their physical media section. Yeah, it's gone. There's no more DVDs and CDs at Best Buy. Yeah. I think Walmart did the same. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but as major retailers stop carrying these things, the risk of that not being available grows. And if I can tie that now back into the original premise of the podcast here, this is one of the dangers, I think, of PC gaming over the console gaming, at least at this current generation. Consoles largely, with the exception of a certain release of Xbox, right? Consoles have largely maintained physical media. PCs have largely abandoned physical media. If you want a PC game, you've got to get that through some platform, whether that's Steam or GOG or any of the individual publishers' platforms.
I would have to defer to someone in PlayStation world, because I don't know that world. But in the Xbox world, I mean, you can buy a version of the Xbox that doesn't have a disc reader, and that's
the cheaper. That's the entry level.
Yeah, I think we've only purchased one game on physical media, and then a friend has loaned us a game. But other than that, everything we have is digital, and it's like we subscribe to the Xbox
Live or
whatever you call it, which is amazing because we talked to Horsey about No Man's Sky. I mean, that was just available to us for free. I guess it's been out since 2017, but that's just free. It's in there. So when I got a hankering to play it, it's included. But I was able to just click it, download it.
I like the convenience, but I'm not willing to trade ownership, because when I sold my collection of old games, I saw a return of several $1,000s, right? But also, I didn't have to download anything. Mm-hmm. Some of those publishers had gone out of business. If it had been a digital distribution deal, it just wouldn't be available anymore. I've seen this with the apps on the App Store. If you remember, was it Flappy Bird or whatever it was? It just went away. You can't have it. I think that's true, at least currently as of the time of recording. I think that's true with TikTok. TikTok is not a download on the App Store, even though it was only off and then back on again in terms of national regulations for maybe less than 24 hours. Yeah. But if you don't have a physical copy, you don't have ownership. If you can't play it offline, you don't have ownership. Yeah. And that is so valuable to me that I will go through the trouble of yelling at my kids about, put it back on the shelf and don't lose the little game card that's as big as a postage stamp.
So I couldn't do it with the Xbox. Vivian's playing Stardew, I'm playing this game, Kristen's playing that game. It's just, it sounds petty, but gosh, that would be frustrating to it just seems like.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. It kind of is. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have both. What I'd love to see is you own a physical copy. You could get the digital copy too. Yeah. And as long as maybe it's NFC or something like that, as long as it's within range of the console, then you can just load it up. That would be cool.
But I think what they're trying to do, though, is they charge more for the digital copy?
I don't know about more. I think it's the same. And I think they end up making more money off of it because they don't have to pay to put it on a widget, whether that's a disc or whether that's a
gotta host
game
it, though.
card. Yes. I don't know that hosting costs as much as retail shelf space and carrying inventory and shipping things.
No, it's, probably
But,
economies of scale.
Yeah. In that way, I am definitely more of a console gamer. And oddly enough, I have probably a much larger library of digital content because being an Amazon subscriber, I use the Prime Gaming. Every month I have it on my calendar. Go to Prime Gaming, see what the free games are, and I will download them to my accounts that I never install from, never play from, never use.
But then you get them.
But I've got them. So if I ever do, especially with an unfinished basement and an uncomfortable office, if I make that space really sweet, my kids get a little older, they don't want to spend time with me anymore. That might be a really good season of life to jump into some of these games that I've had for a long, long time. And that's why I've kind of shifted my way of describing it and thinking to this season of gaming or this season of life.
That's probably more accurate because at some point, the idea of putting physical copies into a Switch it's going to go away, and we're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to kind of circle back on the hardware of all this, maybe to finish this out, and that's, to me, the Switch is getting bigger. There's probably more storage, and there's maybe better
processor, better video card.
Now they've always been kind of lag behind the next gen, which I think is, to their defense, is
kind of the charm.
It's the charm, but also the games they're building they're not like realistic looking. Faces.
We don't need to see pores and sweat coming off of Mario's face.
Right. No. So they're doing, and I've always loved that. But for me, having because I know the original Switch didn't support HDR, and of course that's a whole new gaming mode of TVs now, and that, I mean, to me, that we're playing it on a pretty big screen, sitting on the couch, pretty close up, having those nice graphics and things pop, it just really enhances the gaming to me. I don't need the ability to take it and put it in my pocket or take it to a conference, or I got the Raspberry Pi for that. So and maybe that's my season of gaming. I take the Raspberry Pi, that's my mobile gaming, and the Xbox. Actually, we have taken the Xbox on vacation before for the kids, and they've loved that. But it's a hassle. I mean, it's a box and.
Yeah, I do think you'll get a lot of folks that get really invested in the hardware, especially on the PC side.
Oh, yeah.
For a while, I had a Reddit account. I don't anymore, but for a while I was a follower of PC Master Race, and you'd have people who would spend $3,000-$4,000 on a desktop computer and then brag about, I get more FPS than you. You should.
You should.
For 10 times the cost of the console that was made 7 years ago. Yeah. You should be getting more FPS. Yes.
Yes.
But does it really, does it matter? And I think for some people, sometimes that immersive experience, yes, it does matter. But what games am I playing today? Yeah. I'm currently playing Stardew Valley.
Right.
I wouldn't know if it was running 120 FPS or 7.
Yeah. And that's interesting, too, because a lot of those games, I could see people porting over to the Raspberry. Like Stardew's not brand new, but I mean, it's a modern game.
Yeah.
But you could probably emulate that game on a Raspberry Pi. It's not that taxing.
It feels like a Super Nintendo game, and that's part of the appeal for me.
Yeah. Good on you. I think it's and this will segue to one of our conversations eventually. Your gaming experience, it can be like your enjoyment of bourbon, right? I mean, if you enjoy a lower shelf bottle of bourbon and you just actually enjoy it, good on you. I think I feel bad for the people that have such a good palate that their bourbon has to be,
you know what we need?
$50 fifth or.
We need a guest on this show, and then we need to end it with next time on the Soapbox. Thanks for listening to the Soapbox, Eric.
how can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search SoapBox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.